Namaste and good morning, India. Welcome to your daily update of top Indian headlines brought to you by OneRead.news. This is calm, clear, and factual news. Namaskar.
All right, let's get into it. Today, we're looking at 18 different headlines. Now, on their own, they're just stories, but the real magic happens when you see how they all connect. We're going to start big, like really big, with India's moonshot ambitions. Then we'll see how those grand plans have to survive the tough reality of policy and politics. From there, we'll wade into the very murky world of truth, lies, and advertising. Then we'll zoom out to look at a very tense global stage, and finally bring it all right back here, to the home front, to see how these huge forces play out on our own streets. And don't worry, we'll end on a high note, finding those quiet victories and stories of progress that keep us all going. So, let's connect some dots.
So first up, let's talk about ambition. I mean, the big, bold, audacious kind of thinking that sends robots into deep space and bets billions of dollars on the future. This is all about setting a course, not just for a rocket, but for the entire nation.
Just look at that number, over 20,000 crore rupees. That's the price tag for Gaganyaan, India's historic mission to send our own astronauts into space. And this December, we're set to see the first huge test flight, an uncrewed mission carrying Vyomitra, an advanced humanoid robot to make sure all the life support systems are perfect. If this works, India joins an incredibly exclusive club. Just the US, Russia, and China have done this. We'd be the fourth nation on Earth to achieve human spaceflight. But here's the part that really blows my mind. We're doing it on what the source material calls a shoestring budget. This is more than just clever engineering, it's a massive statement. It tells the world that India can hit world-class, groundbreaking goals with our own unique ingenuity. It sets the tone for ambition across every single industry.
And that ambitious tone? Well, people are hearing it loud and clear all over the world. So let's come back down to earth for a second and look at this number, $2.25 billion. With a B, that is the colossal investment that the American IT giant Kyndryl is pumping into India over the next 3 years. Now, this isn't just another foreign company setting up shop. The source points out this is a major bet on India's tech future. It's a sign that the world is starting to see India not just as the world's reliable back office anymore, but as its frontline innovation engine. And a huge piece of this is a new AI innovation lab in Bengaluru, designed to solve the next generation of tech problems. So if $2.25 billion is the what, then this number right here, 200,000, is the how. See, Kyndryl isn't just building fancy new labs, they're investing in people. They plan to train 200,000 individuals, creating that super skilled talent pool needed to power all that innovation. It shows you that direct link between global money and local talent. You can have the biggest dreams and the biggest checks in the world, but it means nothing without skilled people to make it happen. Which leads to a pretty obvious question, right? How do you build that talent pipeline from the ground up?
And the answer starts right here, at the state level. Haryana is kicking off a new commission, the Rajya Uddimita Ayog, or State Entrepreneurship Commission. Its entire purpose is to find and nurture young entrepreneurs. They're offering grants, small loans, and really crucial training. And why is this so important? Well, the source puts it perfectly. With a growing population, encouraging entrepreneurship isn't just a nice idea, it's an absolute necessity. This isn't just about creating employees for companies like Kyndryl. It's about creating the next Kyndryls. And there it is, ambition coming full circle. From a moonshot in space to a multi-billion-dollar investment, right down to building a local startup culture from scratch.
Okay, so you've got these incredible, ambitious economic plans. But, big, logical ideas almost never have a smooth ride. They have to pass through what we're calling the policy gauntlet, where these clean, elegant theories crash into the messy, complicated, and let's be honest, often super noisy reality of politics. Let's see how that works.
So on one hand, you have a beautiful, logical idea like this. A group of ministers has greenlit a proposal to simplify the GST. The plan is to get rid of the complicated four-tier system we have now and just replace it with two simple rates, 5% and 18%. On paper, it's a genius move. It makes the whole tax system way simpler and more transparent for everyone. But, and this is a big but, as our source points out, the real political fight is just getting started. Why? Because when you simplify, some things get cheaper and other things get more expensive. The question of who gets a tax cut and who gets a tax hike becomes what the source brilliantly calls a high-stakes game of corporate musical chairs.
And if simplifying taxes is a game of musical chairs, then Parliament is where the music can get pretty wild. This quote just nails the problem. The monsoon session of Parliament just wrapped up, but a huge chunk of its time was completely lost to disruptions and protests.
So while these big, important policy ideas like GST reform were being worked on in committees, the main floor of the House was dominated by shouting matches over the revision of electoral rolls in Bihar. Yes, 12 bills got passed, but they did it in an environment of constant confrontation. And that's the real challenge, isn't it? How do you have a thoughtful, detailed discussion about complex policy when the whole system seems to run on conflict? The clean logic of a plan can just get swallowed up by the deafening noise of politics.
Okay, so from the noise in Parliament, let's zoom in on a different kind of noise. The constant flood of information, misinformation, and advertising that hits us all every single day. In a world where everyone's making claims, how do we figure out what's true and what's not? Let's look at this challenge of finding the facts.
I mean, just think about the scale of this claim for a second. President of the United States makes a very specific accusation. He says the U.S. government, through USAID, spent $21 million trying to influence voter turnout in India over a 10-year period. This is not some random rumor online. This is a statement that can have huge, explosive diplomatic consequences. And what we have here is the official response, which came through India's External Affairs Ministry. The U.S. Embassy has formally and completely denied it. The source uses this as a perfect example of why checking the facts is so incredibly important. One unverified claim from a powerful person can start a major diplomatic fire, and you need calm, official channels to put it out.
So that's misinformation on the huge, global stage. But the exact same principle of truth versus lies plays out on a much more personal level for all of us. Let's bring it right down to the things we buy. This is the official definition of a misleading advertisement. It's basically anything that makes a false or misleading claim about a service. Sounds simple enough, right? But in the real world of marketing, where do you draw that line between a clever sales pitch and an actual lie?
Well, in this case, the line was officially drawn. The ride-hailing app Rapido was just fined 10 lakh rupees. The problem? Ad campaigns that made very specific, concrete promises, like getting you an auto in 5 minutes. The Central Consumer Protection Authority decided that this crossed the line from advertising into a misleading claim about their service. And the takeaway from our source here is just perfect and kind of funny. A reminder that in advertising, guaranteed is a very expensive word. See? Whether it's a $21 million diplomatic incident or a 5-minute auto promise, the lesson is exactly the same. Always, always question the claim.
So while India is dealing with all its own complexities, from tax policy to consumer ads, it's doing all of this on a global stage that is frankly incredibly tense and volatile. So let's widen our view and take a look at a world on edge.
This is just a quick snapshot of how many different things are happening all at once. In Moscow, you have India's External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar, doing a very delicate diplomatic dance. He's there talking about trade and counterterrorism with a key partner, Russia. But at the same time, he has to bring up the very sensitive and worrying issue of Indian citizens being tricked into fighting for the Russian army. At the very same time, that war is heating up economically. Ukrainian drone strikes have now taken out an estimated 13% of Russia's entire oil refining capacity. This isn't just a random attack, it's a direct hit on Russia's ability to fund its own war. And while all of that is happening, a chilling new report comes out of East Asia, revealing a secret, heavily fortified North Korean missile base near the Chinese border, big enough to hold long-range ballistic missiles. This is a serious escalation that changes the security situation for the whole region.
And just when you think things can't get any more complicated, they do. In what sure looks like retaliation, Russia launches one of its biggest aerial attacks of the entire war. But look where it hit. A US-owned electronics factory in western Ukraine. It's a civilian target far from any fighting. And the source asks the absolutely vital question here. Was hitting a civilian American-owned factory a deliberate message to the West? A warning shot? Or was it just a terrible mistake in the chaos of war? The fact that we don't know the answer is itself a source of huge tension for the entire world.
All right, let's bring it all back home. Let's see how these massive global pressures and all these internal challenges actually show up right here in our own communities. We're going from the grand stage of global politics to the battles being fought every day on our streets against forces both natural and, well, man-made.
Just keep this question in your head for the next couple of minutes. How does a massive, abstract idea like global climate change or a high-level security failure in Delhi actually change the life of a regular person on a regular street?
Here's exactly how that connection works. Climate change isn't some far-off problem for polar bears. Experts confirm it is actively making our monsoon patterns more extreme and unpredictable. For a huge city like Mumbai, that means sudden, devastating rainfall that can shut everything down. For a farming region like Vidarbha, it can mean intense drought and crop failures. The price tag is just staggering, an estimated $56 billion in damage in just 4 years. But the real cost is felt street by street and farm by farm.
And here is that connection in the real world. After being absolutely battered by those rains, Mumbai is finally getting a bit of a break. Schools and colleges that had to shut down are finally reopening. But the source describes this moment perfectly. Not as a victory, but as a temporary truce in the city's annual battle between its own amazing resilience and the monsoon's growing power. The global crisis of climate change becomes the local reality of a flooded street, a canceled exam, a life turned upside down.
Now, the fight on the home front isn't just against the weather, it's also civic. Check out this quick chain of events in the capital. First, a huge and shocking security failure, an attack on the chief minister. The response from the top is swift. A new police commissioner, Satish Gulcha, is appointed almost immediately. But what does a move like that really mean? The source offers a pretty sharp and maybe cynical take. A scapegoat is a classic, powerful tool to calm down public anger and, more importantly, to shift attention away from the deeper, tougher questions about how such a failure could have happened in the first place.
And sometimes, the most painful battle on the home front is about who we are. This is a really disturbing story out of Calcutta. 4 students from Calcutta University were physically attacked. But the violence didn't start with a punch. It started with a word, a label. They were called Bangladeshi. As the source points out, this is a terrible incident where someone's perceived identity becomes an excuse for violence. It shows you the painful fault lines of prejudice that can erupt into real conflict on any street at any moment.
You know, after looking at all of those challenges, global tensions, political fights, misinformation, local crises, it can feel pretty heavy. But that's never ever the whole story. Amidst all the noise and the struggle, there are always these powerful stories of progress, resilience, and individual action. These are the quiet victories.
Let's start with this. This is a genuinely remarkable achievement. According to the latest data, India's undernourishment rate has dropped in a big way, from 14.3% down to just 12% in only 2 years. Now, percentages can feel a bit abstract, so let's put that in human terms. It means 30 million fewer people are hungry. 30 million! As the source says, there's still a long way to go, but this is undeniable, life-changing progress in the most basic battle there is. Every single decimal point here represents a life made better.
And you know, progress doesn't just come from big government programs. It comes from action, big and small, from the top down and from the bottom up. This slide shows 2 different ways we build a better, healthier country. On one side, you have a top-down idea from the Sports Ministry, asking every single citizen to dedicate 1 hour to fitness on National Sports Day. It's a simple, powerful call for collective health. And on the other side, you have this beautiful bottom-up story of one person's inspiration. A teacher in Ranchi who decided to transform a local garbage dump into a garden with over 200 plants. One is a national call to action, the other is a personal mission. But both are building a stronger, healthier community, 1 hour and 1 flower at a time.
And there you have it. That's our look at how 18 stories connect. If you appreciate this kind of calm, factual analysis, you can find us every morning. We are on Spotify and YouTube, where you can listen to this podcast every morning at 8 a.m.
You know, our goal here is always the same. We sincerely hope that by bringing you just the facts, free from all the bias and the emotional spin, we've helped empower you to form your own clear understanding of what's happening. Our ability to do this, to give you this kind of opinion-free news, is all thanks to listeners like you.
This means your news is never compromised. We are proudly ad-free, supported by our subscribers. Right now, this is completely free to access, so honestly, the best way you can support our mission is just to share it. If you find this useful, we'd be so grateful if you'd share this explainer with your friends, your family, anyone you know. It really helps us provide a space for factual, condensed news away from all that other noise.
Thank you so much for tuning in and for giving us your time today. We'll be back to connect more dots for you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Until then, keep smiling. Namaskar.